Have you ever found yourself wondering about the really deep currents of history, the kind that ripple through time, connecting us to wisdom that feels incredibly ancient, yet somehow surprisingly relevant today? Well, for this deep dive, we're doing exactly that. We're journeying back, way back through unimaginable stretches of time. And our guide is this extraordinary ancient source, the Mahāpadānasuttaṃ. What's really remarkable is that the current Buddha himself is sharing these stories. Astonishing details he recalls about the lives, the awakenings of previous Buddhas. We're focusing especially on one named Vipassī Buddha.
Yeah, it's a fascinating starting point, actually. The sutta opens with monks sort of grappling with how the Buddha possesses such detailed knowledge of these, distant past lives. And then the Buddha just recounts these incredible details. As we'll get into, it's not just his memory. It's actually corroborated by celestial beings who were there, who witnessed it.
Right. So our mission today is to unearth some, well, truly unexpected facts about the consistency, the blueprint, you could say, of enlightenment across these vast spans of time. We want to explore the unique, almost mythic journey of a great being, and importantly, see how these ancient accounts might spark some profound new insights for your own understanding, right here, right now. Okay, so let's open up this extraordinary document. It starts by laying out this grand genealogy of awakened beings. Just how far back are we talking, and who are these figures?
We're talking immense time scales, cosmic scales, really. The Vipassī Buddha, for instance, he appeared 91 eons ago.
That's staggering.
91 eons.
Yeah.
Man.
Then you have Sikhi and Vasabhu Buddhas. They were 31 eons ago. And then closer to our time, in what the text called this fortunate eon, we had Kakusanto, Konagamano, and Kasapo Buddhas, followed, of course, by the current Buddha, Gautama. That's just an astonishing stretch of history. But, despite these vast gulfs of time, the Sutta points to some striking parallels. Almost like enlightenment follows a consistent template. What were some of those shared characteristics?
Well, what really stands out is the universality of the path, even with variations. Like their lineage. Some Buddhas, Vipassī, and the current Buddha included, were born into Kshatriya families. That's the warrior or ruling class.
Right.
But others, like Kakusando, were Brahmins, the priestly class. So it really shows that awakening isn't tied to social standing.
That's a key point.
Exactly. And then you have their clan names, their Gotra. They vary too. Vipassī was from the Kutanyo clan, the current Buddha from the Gautama clan. Again, it shows enlightenment isn't exclusive to one bloodline. And interestingly, each one attained awakening under a specific type of tree. Vipassī under a Pāli tree, the current Buddha under an Asatha tree, the Bodhi tree we know. Little details, but consistent patterns.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. While you have these similarities in the core path, there's also this fascinating contrast in scale, especially when you look at their lives and the communities around them.
Oh, absolutely. The scale shifts dramatically. Take lifespans. Vipassī Buddha apparently lived for 80,000 years.
80,000?
Yeah, compare that to the current Buddha's lifespan, around 100 years. Relatively short. It's a huge difference in physical presence. And each Buddha had a pair of chief disciples. Vipassī had Kanta and Tissa. The current Buddha had Sariputta and Moggallana. That pattern holds, but the size of their communities, that's where you see the massive difference. Vipassī Buddha had 3 major assemblies of disciples. One of them numbered 6.8 million monks.
6.8 million, that's hard to even imagine.
Right. And another had 100,000, another 80,000. Compare that to the current Buddha's main assembly of 1,250 monks. But here's the incredible thing. The text says every single one of these disciples, across all these Buddhas and assemblies, were arahants, fully liberated beings.
Every single one.
Yeah. And each Buddha also had a dedicated chief attendant, like Asoko for Vipassī and Anando for the current Buddha. Their parents were royal too, but different families, different cities. Vipassī's parents were King Bantuma and Queen Bantumati in the city of Bandamati. The current Buddhas, King Suddhodana and Queen Maya in Kapilavatthu. So what can we infer from these incredible differences in scale and lifespan, yet such consistency in the outcome, in the liberation? It really suggests the core teaching, the Dhamma, it's universal. It works. It's adaptable across vastly different conditions, different eras. Its essence is timeless.
Okay, let's dive deeper into Vipassī's life then. The Sutta focuses on these ordinances of nature, the mata surrounding his conception and birth. This sounds like more than just history. It feels cosmic. What are these Dhammacharya?
It's absolutely extraordinary, yeah. It's like the universe itself announces the arrival of this unique being. For Vipassī, the text says, when the Bodhisatta descended from the Tusita heaven and entered his mother's womb, an immeasurable brilliant light filled the entire 10,000 world system.
A light filling everything.
Everything. So bright, it even reached the darkest interworld hells, places usually devoid of light.
Mm.
And beings there, for the first time, could actually see and recognize each other.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the whole world system quakes.
Yeah.
It's a literally earth-shaking event.
Wow. So the cosmos itself reacts. What else? What about the mother?
Well, right from conception, 4 devas, divine beings, appear from the 4 directions to protect the Bodhisatta and his mother from any harm, seen or unseen. And his mother herself is described as naturally virtuous. She automatically observes the precepts: no killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, or taking intoxicants. It's inherent. And remarkably, the text says no man, regardless of how lustful they might be, could even approach her with sexual desire. She's completely protected in that way. She's also perfectly healthy throughout the pregnancy. And she could apparently see the Bodhisatta clearly in her womb, all his limbs and features intact. The analogy used is beautiful, as if a bright, well-cut jewel were placed on a clean, fine cloth. You can see it perfectly.
That is a beautiful image. And the birth itself, any specific ordinances there?
Yes. A bit poignantly, his mother passes away exactly 7 days after his birth. But she's immediately reborn in the two-seat of heaven, her role fulfilled. The gestation is precisely 10 months, and the birth happens while she's standing, not sitting or lying down. And when he's born, devas receive him first, then humans. And these 4 devas immediately present him to his mother, declaring, "Rejoice, O queen, a mighty son has been born to you."
Received by devas first.
Yeah. And he emerges completely clean, no bodily fluids, nothing. Again, like that perfectly polished jewel on a clean cloth, unsullied. Then, 2 streams of water, one cool and one warm, spontaneously pour down from the sky to bathe both the Bodhisatta and his mother.
Incredible. And what about his first actions? The story often mentions first steps, right?
Exactly. This is maybe the most amazing part. Immediately after birth, he stands firmly on the ground. He takes 7 steps to the north. A white ceremonial umbrella is held over him. He surveys all the directions, and then he makes this incredible proclamation. "Chief am I in the world, eldest am I in the world, foremost am I in the world. This is my last birth. There is now no renewed existence."
Wow. Straight after birth.
Straight after birth. And just like at conception, that immeasurable light appears again, and the 10,000 world system quakes again. It's a cosmic bookend to the birth event.
So when we hear these incredibly specific, awe-inspiring details, what's the deeper meaning for us? It feels like it's pointing to something significant beyond just, an old story.
I think what's really fascinating is how these ordinances signify the immense spiritual momentum, the sheer weight of karma and destiny leading up to a Buddha's appearance. It's not just a human birth, it's presented as a cosmic event. It underlines the rarity, the preciousness of such a being arriving. It signals that the path they're about to reveal has this profound universal significance.
Right. It sets the stage. Okay, so like the current Buddha, Vipassi's journey involved confronting the realities of life. He had this luxurious youth, shielded in palaces, but then came the famous 4 sights. Can you walk us through those moments?
Sure. So despite his father trying really hard to keep him wrapped in luxury 3 palaces for the different seasons, constant entertainment, Vipassī, after many years, felt a desire to see the world outside. He asked his charioteer to take him to the park. On that first trip, he saw an old man, bent over, frail, leaning on a stick, trembling, vitality completely gone. Vipassī had never seen anything like it.
Because he'd been so sheltered.
Exactly. He asked his charioteer, "What's wrong with this man?" And the charioteer had to explain, "Sir, that is old age." He explained that everyone, including the prince himself, is subject to it. And Vipassī was deeply shaken, distressed. His father, hearing this, just tried to distract him with even more sensual pleasures.
Trying to keep the walls up. And the next sights followed the same pattern.
Pretty much. On the next outing, he saw a sick person, suffering greatly, lying helpless, perhaps even in their own waste, needing others to care for them. Again, he asked. The charioteer explained, "This is sickness, sir. Everyone is subject to illness." Vipassī was distressed again. More distractions ordered by the king. Then, the third sight, a corpse. A dead body being carried for funeral rites, people mourning. The charioteer explained, "This is death, sir. It comes to all beings." This time, Vipassī was profoundly moved. He really started reflecting deeply on the impermanence of it all.
And the final sight, the one that shifted everything?
The fourth sight was completely different. He saw an ascetic, shaven head, wearing simple yellow robes, calm, serene. Vipassī asked, "Who is this?" The charioteer explained, "Sir, this is a renunciate, one who practices the Dhamma, lives peacefully, seeks wholesome actions, harms no one, practices compassion."
So that was the aha moment, the alternative path.
Exactly. Vipassī was deeply inspired. He saw an escape, a different way. He resolved then and there to renounce his worldly life.
But then there's that curious detail. He leaves, and initially 84,000 people are inspired to renounce with him. But then he separates from them. Why the solitude? Does seeking deep truth require that kind of isolation?
I think it points to something crucial.
Hmm.
He separated because his reflection deepened. He thought, this world is really in trouble. It's born, it ages, it dies, it passes away, it reappears, but it doesn't understand the escape from this suffering, from aging and death. He realized that finding that escape, that ultimate truth, wasn't something he could do surrounded by thousands, even if they were sincere. He needed profound solitude to penetrate the deepest layers of reality. It suggests the ultimate work has to be done alone, internally.
Okay. And this period of solitary contemplation leads him to the absolute core of his enlightenment, dependent origination, Pātimokkha. This is such a profound, maybe even complex concept. Can you help us unpack how he arrived at this understanding, how suffering arises and ceases?
Absolutely. It really is the cornerstone. So in his solitude, Vipassī started contemplating reality very systematically. He asked himself, okay, aging and death. Well, why does this happen? What's its condition? Through his deep concentration and insight, he saw, aging and death depends on birth. If there's no birth, there's no aging and death.
Right, makes sense.
Then he traced back further. What does birth depend on? He saw it depends on becoming, bhava, the process of existence continuing. And becoming depends on clinging, upada. Clinging depends on craving. Craving arises from feeling vedana, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral sensations.
Okay, so there's a chain building here.
Exactly. Feeling depends on contact, phassa, the meeting of sense organs, sense objects, and consciousness. Contact depends on the six sense bases, sayatana, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind. The six sense bases depend on name and form, amarupa essentially, the mental and physical aspects of an individual. And crucially, name and form depends on consciousness, viññā. And consciousness depends back on name and form. They're mutually dependent.
A loop, almost.
A kind of interdependent loop, yes. And seeing this whole chain, from consciousness conditioning name and form all the way up to birth conditioning aging and death, he had this profound realization. Thus arises this entire mass of suffering. He saw the mechanics of suffering.
Wow, okay, so that's how it arises. How did he figure out how it stops?
By reversing the process, he thought, okay, how does aging and death cease? Well, with the cessation of birth, aging and death ceases. How does birth cease? With the cessation of becoming, birth ceases. And he went all the way back down the chain. With the cessation of clinging, becoming ceases.
Yeah.
With the cessation of craving, clinging ceases. Of feeling, craving ceases. Of contact, feeling ceases. Of the six sense bases, contact ceases. Of name and form, the six sense bases cease. Of consciousness, name and form ceases. And with the cessation of name and form, consciousness ceases.
So by breaking any link...
By understanding and bringing about the cessation of the conditions, the whole chain unravels. His realization was, thus ceases this entire mass of suffering. And the text says, as he saw this arising and ceasing, this whole dynamic, in that moment, the I arose, knowledge arose, wisdom arose, insight arose, light arose. Complete clarity.
So this wasn't just an intellectual understanding. It was a direct, liberating insight into the nature of reality itself. He's no longer just a bodhisattva seeking enlightenment. He is a fully self-awakened one, a Buddha. Right? So after this incredibly profound awakening, you might think he'd immediately rush out and start teaching. But the sutta tells us Vipassī Buddha actually felt some reluctance at first. Why would he hesitate?
It's a very understandable, almost human reaction described in the text. He thought about the Dhamma he'd realized. This truth is profound, hard to see, hard to understand. It's peaceful, sublime, beyond mere logic, subtle. Only the wise can really grasp it. And then he looked at beings in the world, generally delighting and clinging, attached to worldly things. He thought, they won't understand this. If I try to teach and they don't get it, it'll just be wearisome and frustrating for me. It was a moment of considering the sheer difficulty of communicating such a deep truth.
I can see that. But then this powerful divine being, a Brahma, intervenes. What's the significance of that? Why does a god need to prompt a Buddha to teach? Does it suggest a kind of cosmic duty?
It absolutely speaks to that. It's a recurring theme. The great Brahma Sahampati, seeing Vipassī's hesitation, became concerned. He thought the world will be lost. The world will perish if the Buddha doesn't teach. So he appeared before Vipassī and made this really eloquent plea. He basically said, Lord, please teach the Dhamma. There are beings out there with just a little dust in their eyes. They're capable of understanding. They're perishing simply because they haven't heard the teaching. They will become knowers of the Dhamma. He urged him multiple times.
So the Brahma insists there are receptive minds out there.
Exactly. And moved by the Brahma's plea and his own immense compassion, Vipassī then surveyed the world with his Buddha eye. He looked out and saw beings with different levels of spiritual development, some deeply obscured, some less so, some almost ready. He used the beautiful analogy of lotuses in a pond, some still deep in the mud, some rising to the surface, and some already above the water, untouched by it, ready to bloom when the sun hits. Seeing those lotuses ready to bloom convinced him. He said, "Open are the doors to the deathless. Let those with ears now show their faith." He agreed to teach.
Okay, he agrees. And his first students are this prince and a priest's son you mentioned earlier. What was his method? How did he get them to understand so quickly? It wasn't just laying out dependent origination straight away, was it?
No, absolutely not. He used a very specific method called the gradual discourse, or anupubbikatha. He knew he had to prepare their minds first. So he started with basics, talk on generosity, dana, the importance of giving, then on virtue, sila, ethical conduct. Then he spoke about the rewards, like rebirth in heavenly realms, saga. Then, crucially, he talked about the drawbacks of sensual pleasures, their limitations, their ultimate unsatisfactoriness, and then the benefits of renunciation, nikaminisasa.
Ah, so building a foundation, step by step.
Precisely. Only when he could see that their minds were ready, malleable, free from hindrances, uplifted, and confident. The text using that lovely analogy again, like a clean cloth ready to perfectly absorb dye. Only then did he teach the ultimate truth, the highest Dhamma of the Buddhas, the Four Noble Truths. Suffering, its origin, craving, its cessation, and the path leading to cessation.
And because their minds were prepared?
It clicked. They attained stream entry, the first stage of enlightenment right there. The gradual approach worked perfectly.
Amazing. And this initial success then snowballs, right? Thousands more follow. How did Vipassī manage this truly enormous sangha, this community?
Yeah, it really took off. After those first two, the news spread. About 84,000 people from the capital city, Bondamati, came to hear him. He gave them the same gradual discourse, followed by the Four Noble Truths, and they also attained liberation.
Wow, 84,000 more.
And then, remember those original 84,000 renunciates who had left with him initially but then separated? They heard he'd become enlightened, came back. He taught them too, and they also achieved liberation.
So the number just kept growing. We're talking millions eventually.
Exactly. At one point, the text mentions an assembly of 6.8 million monks, all arahants. So with this vast sangha, Vipassī gave them a clear instruction. Go forth, monks. Wander far and wide for the welfare and happiness of the many, out of compassion for the world. Teach the Dhamma, good in the beginning, good in the middle, good in the end. Let not two of you go by the same road. Spread out, basically.
Maximize the reach.
Right. And he also set up a system for maintaining community cohesion. They were to gather back in Bondamati every 6 years to recite the Pātimokkha, the code of monastic discipline. Apparently, a Brahma even reassured him that the devas would help guide the monks back when the time came.
Huh. Divine assistance for scheduling. And what's the core message of that Pātimokkha? You mentioned it summarizes the teaching.
Yes. The core verses, which are said to be the exhortation common to all Buddhas, are very concise and powerful. They go, patient endurance is the supreme austerity. Nibbana is supreme, say the Buddhas. One gone forth who harms another is no renunciate. One who harasses others is no monk. And then, not doing any evil, undertaking the wholesome and purifying one's own mind. This is the teaching of the Buddhas. And finally, not abusing, not injuring, restraint according to the Pātimokkha, moderation in eating, dwelling in solitude, commitment to the higher mind. This is the teaching of the Buddhas. It's a complete ethical and mental training guide in just a few lines.
That's incredibly succinct. A whole path right there. Okay, so let's bring this full circle back to where we started. How did the current Buddha, Gautama, actually know all these incredibly intricate details about Vipassī and the others from 91 eons ago? Was it purely his own awakened memory, or was there more to it?
That's a great question, and the sutta actually addresses it directly near the end. The current Buddha explains that it wasn't just his own recollection through profound insight, though that was primary. He recounts visiting the Suddhavasa realms, the pure abodes. These are very high heavenly realms, inhabited by beings called non-returners, who have incredibly long lifespans. Some of these devas had actually lived through the time periods of Vipassī, Sikhi, Vissabhu, and the other Buddhas of past eons. They remember these events.
So they were witnesses?
Effectively, yes. Witnesses. And they came to the current Buddha and confirmed all the details he had recalled of Vipassī's lifespan, his disciples, his parents, the Dhammata, everything. They said, yes, Lord, it was exactly like that.
So it's not just a solo act of incredible memory, but a kind of cosmic corroboration that really does drive home the profound nature of this knowledge, doesn't it? It's presented as verified truth.
Exactly. That corroboration really emphasizes the point that this isn't just myth or legend being passed down. It's presented as verifiable fact, known through the Buddha's direct insight and confirmed by long-lived celestial beings who witness these cycles of existence unfolding. It highlights the enduring power and consistency of the path to awakening, witnessed and validated across unimaginable timescales.
So wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway from this incredible deep dive into Vipassī Buddha and the lives of past Buddhas? Beyond the frankly mind-boggling details about lifespans and numbers, what's the universal lesson here for us?
I think if you connect all these threads, the enduring message is profoundly clear and actually quite practical. It's at the core principles of the path to liberation, understanding suffering and its causes through dependent origination, the importance of renouncing what harms us and cultivating what's wholesome, developing wisdom and compassion. These things are fundamentally consistent. They worked 91 eons ago for Vipassī, they worked for the current Buddha, and the implication is they work now. The story of Vipassī acts almost like an archetype, a blueprint for enlightenment. It shows the stages, the challenges, the dedication required, and the incredible impact an awakened being can have, regardless of the era or the scale. The essence remains the same.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? This deep dive into such ancient wisdom, if this path, this blueprint for awakening, has been walked consistently over countless eons, what are those fundamental universal truths within it that remain absolutely relevant to your own journey of understanding, your own potential for liberation right here, right now?